following is a production of Cary TV, the Town of Cary's government access channel.
Call to order the July 13th Quasi-Judicial meeting of the Cary Town Council, and I would ask that you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have two quasi-judicial hearings scheduled for this evening. It's my understanding that the applicant for the second quasi-judicial hearing would like a continuance, so therefore I would suggest to council that we change the order of the agenda and take the second hearing first and the first hearing second.
So moved.
There's a motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. So to continue a hearing, it's my understanding, and our attorney representing us will stop me if I'm wrong, we have to open up the public hearing. We don't have to swear in anyone, since attorneys don't have to be sworn in. And so we can have the attorney come up immediately and make that request, and we can act on that request. And if it's successful, that hearing will be continued, and then we can move to the other hearing. Correct. So that's, I'm getting a correct. Correct. All we need is who you are and what your request is.
Sure. I'm Tom Johnson with the law firm of Nex and Pruitt at 4141 Park Lake Avenue, Suite 200 in Raleigh. I'm here on behalf of the applicant, and we've been working with staff, but we've still got some outstanding issues we need to resolve with staff, and we're in agreement that it would be better if we continue it to the August 3rd meeting. And in connection with the request, it's both the annexation and the quasi-judicial hearing that will need to be continued to that August 3rd date.
Okay, very good. So at this time, we can act on that request. Is there a motion from council?
I'll make a motion to continue both the quasi-judicial hearing and the annexation till our August 3rd meeting.
There's a motion.
That's at 6:30 in the council.
6:30 in the council chambers.
Details. Details.
Okay.
6:30 in the council chambers. There's a motion. Is there a second? Second. Discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously, and we'll pick this up again on August 3rd, 6:30 in the council chambers.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We now move to the original first quasi-judicial hearing and our only quasi-judicial hearing left this evening, and it's the Twin Lakes Center sketch plan. This is 16 SP 080. The case is before us tonight because the applicant has proposed to develop more than 100,000 square feet. And as a reminder to those in attendance this evening, even though we are in the council chambers, an evidentiary hearing is more like a court case. Council acts like the judge and can only accept evidence that is competent, material, and substantial. The North Carolina and United States Constitutions give the applicant certain due process rights in an evidentiary hearing that council must comply with. The Constitution really ties our hands on what evidence we can accept. and I apologize in advance for what might seem to be a burdensome or a complex process. We will consider competent, material, and substantial evidence from anyone who testifies. By law, we can only accept testimony from expert witnesses regarding whether this development will affect property values and whether it will increase traffic resulting from this development or will pose danger to public safety. To those that are with us this evening intending to testify that are not qualified as experts, we can accept testimony from you on factual issues and what you have observed. We cannot accept your opinions. Our contractual attorney, who is sitting to my left, will help us to determine who is an expert and what evidence we can consider. The hearing procedures and detailed rules are attached to the printed agenda. All speakers who want to speak during this public hearing must be administered an oath by Mrs. Johnson, who is to my right, and we'll pause just a moment to allow individuals who would like to speak at the public hearing to approach Mrs. Johnson and receive their oaths, and council will refrain from taking any action during this time.
So that's it. It's bad enough where it's just keep doing what you want to do. It's a lot easier to describe. That's kind of where I am. Deal with it. That's right.
At this time, I'll ask council members if they've had any site visits, ex parte communications, financial relationships, specialized knowledge, or close relationships to an affected person to disclose, starting on my right with Mr. George.
I have not.
Mr. Smith?
I have not.
I have not. Mr. France?
No, sir.
Mr. Urhoff?
No, sir.
All right, very good. Based on the disclosures you have heard from council members, at this time I would invite any party to this matter if they have an objection to a council member's participation in this hearing. Seeing no one, will continue, and I'll open the quasi-judicial public hearing. Mr. Loveland of our staff will introduce the hearing.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. This is a request by Reedus Twin Lakes LLC for consideration of a sketch development plan. Council action is required due to the size of development, as the mayor says, over 100,000 square feet. Also due to the presence of a proposed drive-through lane. The site is now one of the Twin Lakes, from the Twin Lakes PDD. Both Airport Drive and Davis Drive are classified as thoroughfares. You'll note that the purple line there kind of ends adjacent to the site. That's because that portion of Davis Drive is not in the town limits. The site, however, has already been annexed, and it is. It's just the town limit stops at the right-of-way there. The Parks and Rec master plan shows a future greenway on the adjacent property, the town-owned property. That's not constructed at this time. The site is located in the Twin Lakes PDD. The subdivisions to the east and to the northeast are also located in the same PDD. This zoning designates 5 mixed-use parcels, MU1 through MU5. The subject site that we're looking at tonight is located in MU2. This conceptual land use plan suggests mostly retail for this site, also suggests some office and mixed-use space on that plan as well. This is a conceptual plan, and you will see some differences between this plan and the applicant's sketch plan once we get into that. The PDD further outlines some use allocations up to 250,000 square feet of retail space for all 5 MU parcels, mixed-use parcels, an additional 110 square feet of office, and 25,000 square feet of restaurant, which it separates out from retail, is allowed in the total, all 5. No building shall have a footprint exceeding 150,000 square feet, a maximum of 4 standalone restaurants, and up to 50 apartments or condominiums, or 150 assisted living units. What the applicant is proposing is 158,300 square feet of floor area, all non-residential. There are no residential units in the proposal. That would be 63%, slightly over, of the retail allocation from the Twin Lakes PDD if it were to all develop as retail, and right now some of the spaces are speculative. That would be 41%, or just over, of the total floor area, the total non-residential floor area permitted in the PDD. Again, there are no residential uses. It could include up to 2 standalone restaurants, just depending on how the building is configured. PDD allows 4. And for your reference, the acreage or the size of this MU2 property, mixed-use 2 tract, is about 22 acres, which is about 56% of the total area of all 5 MU tracts. Here's an aerial view of the property as it exists today. It is obviously currently undeveloped. It is very wooded, highly wooded. There were no champion trees on the property, however. You see Hatches Pond there to the east, residential subdivisions there to the east. A second larger view helps you give a little more context of the setting. Obviously, Davis Drive there on the west. This is the site plan, or actually utility plan, that the applicant submitted with the sketch plan. Has a fair amount of technical detail, however, it's not as readable as I want it to be, and is actually not exactly oriented north up. So I asked the applicant to provide a colored plan, a simpler color version of that, which I think is a lot easier to see. So there, the buildings are a little more pronounced. So I want to use this version to walk through their proposal. Predominant building that you see up on the northern end of the property is their large scale, large retail building. It has a size of 130,000 square feet. You'll recall that the maximum building footprint was 150,000 square feet, so this is beneath that. This also contains some structured parking, has 144 spaces located beneath the building. That'd be accessed on the east side of the building. This is north up oriented. Building A is a multi-tenant building. Building B is an office, retail, or restaurant building. And finally, Building C, office, retail, bank, or restaurant. Again, you can see the speculative nature of these buildings. Building C contains the drive-through, has 2 drive-through lanes. Community gathering space down on the southeast corner of the site. And 2 stormwater control devices at either locations, BMPs for best management practice, but they're stormwater control devices that show up here looking like a pond, but we don't know what they're going to be yet. This is a sketch plan, so that's one of the details that hasn't been developed. The engineer who drew this may know that they're going to be ponds, but that's not really a detail that's being considered right now. So those could end up being vegetated biocells, below-grade sand filters, a wet pond. Detail is yet to be determined, so don't read too much into their appearance on this plan. The pedestrian and vehicle access, there are 2 full movement access points, one from Davis Drive, a second on Airport Boulevard. Davis Drive has a second vehicular access point. It is right in, right out, as there is a median on Davis. So there is a median break for the southern access point, but not for the northern access point. 4 pedestrian connections to that future greenway along the eastern side of the property. And stubs to the future development to the south. There's a vehicular and pedestrian sidewalk stub to that southern property. That property is mixed use parcel 3. So it's one of those 5 mixed use parcels outlaid in the Twin Lakes PDD. Same to the northwest, where you have another stub that'll help serve and give vehicular and pedestrian access. That is MU4, I believe, is also one of the mixed use parcels. And then architectural features, the Twin Lakes PDD calls out the need to create a sense of place, and amongst the other recommendations, and there's several pages of design recommendations, calls out the need for architectural features to help create a sense of place, and even really goes so far as to say repetitive use of it to reinforce it. What the applicant is proposing is an architectural feature at the community gathering area, and then entrance features at the 3 vehicular entrances into the site. So that concludes staff's initial presentation. I'll hand it over to the applicant and other public speakers, and we'll return once they've finished to present our observations.
Thank you, Mr. Loveland. This time I'll call on the applicant's attorney to present arguments and evidence in support of the application by addressing the applicable approval criteria.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. My name is Jamie Schwadler at 301 Fayetteville Street in Raleigh. I'm with the law firm of Parker Poe, and I'm here on behalf of the applicant this evening. I'd like to thank Doug not only for the presentation, but for his work throughout this process. I think we've been through some changes, and we're much better for it, and I commend the staff for working through all of those with us. I'd like to give a brief overview of the project. Doug did a great job. But the gist of this is that this is a PDD that was approved in 2004. It had 9 different residential parcels, and it had 5 mixed-use parcels. Now, between those 5 mixed-use parcels, there was an entitlement to allow various square footages of these uses to be mixed in various combinations. This is the first of those MU parcels to be developed. So we're developing MU2, and the remainder are yet to be developed. So the uses you'll see here are kind of the first mixed uses that have been introduced to this corridor after all of that residential and the rest of the project has already been complete. And as Doug mentioned, I'd like to highlight that along with this project, there's not only a master plan of how the whole development would pan out, but there's a specific master plan with respect to the mixed-use parcels about how those buildings would be laid out, the height of those buildings, potential mixes of uses and things like that. There's also lengthy design guidelines that talk about on several of the mixed-use parcels how design elements should be pulled together and some of the objectives they were trying to reach, such as a sense of place and things like that. And then there were specific development criteria for some of those projects, or some of those parcels, excuse me. And so combining all of those rules together, you'll see a project here that complies with each of those requirements. And you'll hear from our witnesses tonight now how we not only meet that first criteria 1, the plan complies with the applicable requirements of the LDO, but you'll also hear from our traffic expert. You'll hear from our planner who designed the site, worked with staff through all these issues, and you'll also hear from our impact expert about how each of these 6 criteria under the LDO are met by the evidence tonight, and that the competent material, substantial evidence before you on these should lead you to a positive conclusion on these findings. With that, I'd like to start with the developer of the project, Mr. Howard Kaufman with Leyland Alliance. So I'd like to call my first witness, Mr. Howard Kaufman.
Thank you, Jamie. Good evening. So I'm Howard Kaufman. I'm a principal with the Leyland Alliance from Tuxedo, New York. I'm here with my partner, Jason Hess, who's right behind me. We're the developer of this site. I also want to sincerely thank Doug Loveland and the entire staff. I agree that all the hard work that we've been through really has made the project a better project. Our firm has over 30 years of development experience. We're design-driven, and we've worked on with many of the nation's finest planners through the years. In all of our projects, our simple goal is to create great places that people will enjoy, whether they are going there to live, work, or play. Oops. So this is a photo of a project that we just completed last year for the University of Connecticut. We created a new downtown with several gathering spaces. You're looking at one of them now. This project was a finalist. We're proud of this. It was a finalist for the ULI Global Awards for Excellence. There are several other projects featured in our website if you'd like to see more of our work, but I know we have a short period of time tonight. And I was looking at your website today, and I noticed that, Mayor, that you have some roots in Augusta, Georgia, and one of our projects is in North Augusta, South Carolina. And in that project, Hammond's Ferry, I don't know if you're a baseball fan, but the city of North Augusta is now building a new stadium for the Augusta Green Jackets in our project Hammond's Ferry, which was it's just a fun thing that we have going on there. This is, again, the sketch plan. I'd like to speak to the philosophy behind the design. When we first saw the land with our planners, we came upon Hatch's Pond after we walked through the woods, and we were so impressed by its beauty. We knew immediately that we wanted to take advantage of this extraordinary natural feature. As a result, the main entrance to the site is, as Doug indicated, opposite Holly Creek Road off Davis Drive, and it'll lead you to this overlook. We're calling this the Lake Overlook. And it's really, it's going to be over 5,000 square feet. It'll be a significant plaza, and it will have connections to the future greenway. Turning to the north, let's see if I can get that working again. Whoops. I've lost the cursor. There we go. Turning to the north, this is our Main Street area. This will be a walkable Main Street. And then further to the north is our anchor tenant, Wegmans Food Market, which is rated the #1 supermarket in America today by Consumer Reports, and one of the best places to work for many years by Fortune magazine. This one store will create over 300 full-time equivalent jobs. This is a rendering of our proposed Main Street area and the lake overlook. Here's the Main Street, and there's the overlook in the distance. And that's one of those BMPs that Doug was referring to. That's not actually the lake, which is further to the west. Excuse me, to the east. These plan features are designed to respond to the goal of creating a sense of place that will enhance a visitor's experience. The Main Street will be lined with a broad sidewalk, restaurants, retail shops, and additional plazas, all oriented toward Hatch's Pond. Now, if you go to the south side of the project, looking north, this is a closer view of that lake overlook. And then in the distance, you can see Wegmans, and then in the just beyond the overlook, you'll see the Main Street area. We expect the overlook to become a favorite gathering place to meet friends and family, or just to relax in the middle of a hectic day. Last, now we're looking from the north side of the project toward the south, and that's the Wegmans Market Cafe Plaza, one of the many unique features of the Wegmans food markets. Hatch's Pond and our Main Street are in the background. And in conclusion, we're eager to bring this high-quality mixed-use project to Cary, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you.
I also should mention that we have Wegmans representatives here tonight. They aren't planning to speak, but if there are any questions, they're available to answer any questions from the council. I'd like to call my next witness, Mr. Bill Dirks.
Good evening. I'm Bill Dirks with the McAdams Company, 2905 Meridian Parkway in Durham. And I had the challenge of interpreting the PDD from 2004 and the site constraints that were current, and coming up with the plan that you see before you tonight. So this is the PDD master plan that was included in the zoning. I just bring this up, Doug had it up earlier, just to point out a few things that that we're having to deal with when we came up with the plan. There are fixed access points. The Holly Creek Road full access intersection, right in, right out. And then this full access intersection is across from Chessway Drive on Airport Boulevard. So those are fixed points that had to remain. This large box is 124,000 about square foot footprint, which is the same as our store. It is 130,000 total floor area, but there's a mezzanine space. So the footprint of that building is actually equivalent to the building that we are proposing. You'll notice a couple things. There's no stormwater management shown on this concept plan, which has impacted the size of the site. And this corner MU5 parcel is not included in our project. So the site challenges that we've come up with, we overlaid the current property line over the concept plan that was proposed in the PDD. And a couple of things I'll point out. The right-of-way along Davis Drive is a lot wider than it was. Davis Drive had been approved since 2004. And that impacts a couple of things. One is it moves our streetscape back, which impacts these buildings along the frontage at all sets. And then there's a storage requirement for these through lanes coming out, so it impacts the ability to put the roundabout there. Moves back the intersection of the street from Davis Drive. These are our preliminarily designed stormwater management facilities that treat both the site and off-site drainage from the roadways. And you'll notice, I don't know that this property line was established at the time the concept plan was done, but there are areas of the roadways and parking and things that overlap on what is now town property. So we're dealing with a little bit smaller site than what this shows right now, and then when we go into phase 2, this is where there's a cell tower, so we have some more issues to deal with as we go down the road. The other that you can't see from this plan, but the topography of the site slopes from Davis Drive down to Hatches Pond, going from about 16 feet of fall in this short stem of the roadway to as much as 30 feet across this area. So when we grade in and make reasonable grade for the parking and flat building slabs, the area up in front is lower than Davis Drive, and we do have some retaining walls on the back side. Looking at them side by side, you can see that the larger anchor, retail anchor, is a little bit shorter and deeper than the building 4 on the concept plan. We needed to rotate the building slightly, and it allowed us to get access around both sides on our property, not on the town property or on the mixed-use 5 parcel, to provide the necessary emergency access fire protection for that building. And then we have grouped the retail buildings, as Mr. Kaufman explained, creating the Main Street, addressing Hatches Pond, and placing the overlook here, which essentially is a replacement of this roundabout open space, but overlooking Hatches Pond and not in the middle of the roundabout. So the consistencies that we have, are the access locations. Those are fixed. We could not move those. The location and size of the large retail building is the same. Internally, we have the tree-lined streets and sidewalks on both sides of the streets. The uses, retail, restaurant, office, are the same as what was proposed in the PDD. Public gathering spaces, we have actually 5. There's the public gathering space there, the minimum 5,000 square feet that also meets the LDO requirement. There are 3 associated with this retail building and the space associated with the market cafe. And then pedestrian connectivity throughout. I'll have another blow up of this plan later, but we do have sidewalks running linearly through 2 of these islands connecting to the main street, and also a closer connection up to Davis Drive coming through there. The land uses proposed on MU2 are consistent: retail, restaurant, and office with what the PDD proposed. Building, the L-shaped retail building includes office use, which addresses the requirement for 2 uses in 15% of the buildings on the site. And as Doug mentioned, it's below the maximum 150,000 square foot footprint. The building height allowed is actually 96 feet, and this is well below that. In the there's some blow-ups of the public gathering space, and then the entry feature at the right in, right out that was mentioned is connected through stairwell down to a plaza to get into the front of this retail building and down to the main street with pedestrian scale landscaping, benches, and then also extends over on the north side of the right-in, right-out entrance to help with the screening of the parking lot. Ooh, I must have skipped a slide. Let me get back one slide. There we go. The PDD encourages uses of plaza seating, benches, and niches to create a human scale, and as I mentioned, we have 5. The PDD establishes the streetscape requirement along Davis Drive and Airport Boulevard of 30 feet. We are burying the underground power lines along Davis Drive in accordance with the LDO, and we're enhancing the streetscape behind the retail tenant to include a 4-foot graded berm and an opaque fence. The internal streets have a 15-foot wide streetscape, which includes sidewalks, but a 10-foot landscape area between the back of curb and the sidewalk to separate the vehicular traffic from pedestrian. PDD talks about colors, materials, textures, identifying this as a unique place, and all of the features that we've talked about, entry features, gathering space, will all be of consistent material and look. Now I'll go back to the main street. So I think as Jamie mentioned, or maybe Doug, the PDD includes 12 pages of design guidelines talking about a lot about architecture and the layout. It suggests that we cluster the buildings whenever possible, which is what we've done here with the main street, that we have sidewalks adjacent to the buildings, creating that main street along here and along there. There are sidewalks on both sides of all the streets, which we have done throughout this sketch plan. To use open space as a consistent pattern through the development, this, as Mr. Kaufman described, respects the open space, orients itself toward the open space, and connects to the future greenway in 4 different locations. The pedestrian crossings will be marked with some sort of specialty paving to differentiate and provide further safety for pedestrians from the vehicular traffic. And then this was also laid out to be able to supply emergency access to all parts of the building around through within 150 feet of the building. So with that explanation, the plan as proposed and as we've worked through with staff complies with the combined requirements that we've had to address with the PDD, the LDO, and applicable town standards. There's one modification that's noted on the cover sheet, and that has to do with this stormwater pond and terracing of the retaining walls. But that's the only modification that's being asked for. So it's in keeping with the Twin Lakes PDD, the community plan that designates the site for commercial, and also provides safe ingress and egress for emergency vehicles. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dirks. I'd like to call my next witness, Mr. Earl Llewellyn.
Good evening. I'm Earl Llewellyn, traffic engineer with Kimley Horn and Associates, located at 300 West Morgan Street in Durham. We performed the traffic analysis for the project. I'm a registered professional engineer in North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia. Have 28 years of experience in the traffic engineering field, and have done several hundred studies very similar to this. So,
And at this time, I'd like to tender Mr. Llewellyn as an expert in traffic congestion and mitigation.
Okay.
First, we work very closely with NCDOT and your town staff to determine the study area as well as the assumptions, detailed technical assumptions to be included in the traffic study. We also met with the neighborhood community on 3 occasions to discuss existing pedestrian and cut-through issues that they were experiencing. As Bill said, the project includes supermarket uses, other general retail, restaurant uses, and office. I would note that the land uses and sizes on the site plan are actually 13% less impactful, generating 13% fewer trips than the traffic study, and it's the traffic study that determines the mitigation measures. Similarly, the site plan generates 31% fewer than the PDD that was approved. Page down. We started the study by looking at a total of 10 intersections in the study area, analyzing those under existing, future no-build, and future build-out conditions. As part of our investigation, we determined that there was a significant amount of traffic in the area of Airport Boulevard and Lakewood in this community that's using Lake Grove Boulevard as a cut-through, if you will, to make a left turn at this signalized intersection. And that's primarily because the intersection of Davis and Airport is not signalized. Left turns are pretty difficult, particularly during peak hours. So based on the traffic analysis, we developed several different mitigation measures to address site impact. These are numbered on this figure, and I'll just begin to walk through them very quickly. Number one, construction of the northern site access on Davis Drive as a right-in, right-out only site access. Construction of the main access onto Davis Drive opposite Holly Creek Road here as a full movement intersection with dual left turns exiting the site. Construct the site drive, number three, construct the site drive onto Airport Road opposite Chessway as a full movement intersection. Number four, install a traffic signal at the intersection of Davis Drive, Holly Creek Drive. Number four, install a traffic signal at the Airport Boulevard, Davis Drive intersection. And number six is actually to the north just off the page here, but what it involves is modifying the existing median and left turn lane to provide more storage at this intersection for southbound left turns. Also not numbered on here, but included on the site plan is the construction of additional lane along the full frontage of the project here. Total estimated cost of off-site improvements is $1.2 million. With these committed improvements in place, all signalized intersections will operate at acceptable levels of service, with the exception of the Davis Drive McCrimmon Parkway intersection, which is expected to operate at level service E under both future no-build conditions or build conditions, in other words, with or without the site. This marginal level of service is primarily based on assumptions about background traffic growth as opposed to site traffic impact, which only accounts for 3% at this intersection. Also note that the widening of that intersection, along with McCrimmon Parkway, is in the current draft TIP for construction in year 2022. In addition, all unsignalized intersections in the area are projected to operate with low or moderate delays and with no queuing problems. NCDOT has reviewed our study and agrees with the suggested mitigations that we've proposed. Furthermore, we feel that the installation of the signal we talked about just a minute ago here at the Airport Davis Drive intersection will reduce potential cut-through on Lake Grove Boulevard, as mentioned before, because it will provide an easier, safer route to get to southbound Davis Drive. In summary, based on my analysis, it's my professional opinion that the committed improvements mitigate site congestion impacts reasonably expected to be generated by the projects. Happy to address any questions at the appropriate time.
Thank you, Mr. Llewellyn.
And I just have one question for you, Mr. Llewellyn. Is this the traffic impact analysis that you referred to throughout your testimony?
Yes, ma'am.
And is it the basis of your testimony here tonight?
It is.
I'd just like to make sure that this gets part of the record here tonight, as entered into evidence. I'd like to call our final witness, Mr. Tom Hester.
Hello, good evening. My name is Tom Hester. I'm a professional real estate appraiser, Hester and Company, 228 Fayetteville Street in Raleigh, state certified general appraiser. I have the MAI designation from the Appraisal Institute and a North Carolina broker's license from the North Carolina Real Estate Commission. I've also been appraising properties in Wake County for 36 years.
And at this time, I'd like to tender Mr. Hester as an expert appraiser and in impact studies.
I've reviewed the proposed site plan and the Twin Lakes PDD master plan originally approved in 2004. I visited the property and the neighborhoods surrounding the property, and I've investigated many of the other planned developments in the area. Approval criteria 2 requires that the plan protect other properties or residential uses located on the same property. No residential uses are proposed for the site, but I did consider whether the site plan features protect other nearby properties. The site plan protects nearby properties through setbacks, buffers, and building features that meet or exceed the requirements of the Twin Lakes PDD. The thoroughfare improvements, landscape buffers, and dedicated open space along the east side of the project will also protect nearby properties and will enhance the community. Based on these site features, it's my professional opinion that the proposed plan will adequately protect other properties from any potential adverse effects of the proposed development. Approval criteria 3 requires that the plan provide harmony and unity with the development of nearby properties. To determine if the project provides harmony and unity with the area, I considered 4 criteria. Number 1, is the property typical for the normal course of development in the community? Number 2, is the property similar in scope and scale with other similar properties nearby? Number 3, is the property well integrated into the neighborhood? And number 4, is the property type complementary to other properties in the area? Based on my analysis of this property and the neighborhoods surrounding the proposed commercial development and my investigation of other commercial properties in similar neighborhoods, it's my professional opinion that the plan meets these 4 criteria and provides harmony and unity with the development of nearby properties. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Hester.
And so with that, I'd like to just sum up how the evidence you've heard tonight provides competent, material, and substantial evidence on how we meet the 6 required factors under the LDO. The evidence supports the Cary Community Plan compliance that's outlined in Mr. Loveland's report, focusing on the work, shape, and shop policies, and I believe those are thoroughly covered with Mr. Loveland's report. We've heard tonight how the Twin Lakes complies with the PDD itself, as well as meeting or exceeding those requirements of the LDO in terms of land use, pedestrian connectivity, and plazas and design elements. So that covers criteria 1. As for criteria 2 and 3, we just heard from Mr. Hester, who performed a site inspection, has expert credentials in appraisals, real property, and taking those factors into account, and has analyzed the site plan to determine there are no adverse effects that haven't been sufficiently mitigated, and that the harmony and unity present in the plan, especially with the design guidelines that are consistent throughout the Twin Lakes PDD development overall, will provide that harmony and unity and satisfy criteria 3. As for criterias 4 and 5, we heard from Mr. Dirks, who testified how he laid out the plan that provides for safe conditions for pedestrians with differentiated crosswalks, that there's emergency access that can reach all sides of the buildings, and of course a TIA was performed that mitigates traffic congestion, and we heard from the expert testimony of Mr. Llewellyn, who concluded that those traffic impacts would be reasonably mitigated if those improvements that we've committed to were put into place, especially with that addition of the Airport Davis Drive signal, which is a commitment of the plan. And so for those reasons, I respectfully request that the council evaluate the 6 conditions and make positive conclusions on each of those findings and approve our sketch plan here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. This time I'll invite other speakers who have been sworn in and wish to speak in support of the application to approach the podium one at a time. First speaker come forward at this time. Anyone to speak in support? Seeing no one, sorry, trying to catch up here. We'll now open the hearing to those who are opposed to the request as, I'm sorry?
Yes.
Speaking in support, very
Yeah,
good.
I have a question, sir. we are here to support the project, but we have some request for the council consider some
You need
mitigation.
to state your name and address, please.
Okay. My name is Kumar Napalli. I live at 605 Sea Salt Court in Twin Lakes neighborhood. I am actually representing the Twin Lakes Master Association tonight. I am the president for the HYA board. I'm also representing myself here tonight as a resident. My question is, I'm new to the town of Cary policies here. I wanted to know, we fully support the project, but we also would like council to consider some additional mitigation measures in the neighborhood that resulting from this traffic by this site. So is this appropriate to talk, or do I step back and wait?
You basically tell us what you would like to see.
Okay.
And then at that point, it's our job to ask questions or comment
Thank you, sir.
later on in the process.
And please don't give opinions.
Yes, sir. And I will use the facts only.
That's right.
Thank you. And I do want to distribute a copy of the petition that several residents made, signed to council and to the town clerk and to the applicant.
Normally, you can't accept that type of evidence because it's just hearsay.
So normally we can't accept that type of evidence because it's just hearsay?
I'm not requesting that we be part of the evidence, that's just a request to the council. You don't need to be part of the evidence.
Ms. Silverstein?
I'll leave it up to Ms. Schwedler, but normally, in order for the council to be able to consider evidence in a quasi-judicial hearing, it has to be sworn testimony. There's no way for them to cross-examine documentary evidence, so that's why they normally can't consider.
Understood.
Yeah, we would object to it coming in unless any of those people are here tonight.
It's
who'd
a
like to offer
petition.
their testimony
You can't
live.
consider.
Okay, very good.
So I'm one
Sorry.
of the one who signed it, and I would like to give the testimony.
Again, as long as you're not stating an opinion,
Yes, sir.
you may say anything you'd like.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Good evening again, Mayor and the Town Council. We really appreciate the opportunity tonight, and we actually fully support this high-quality development coming to our neighborhood. The applicant came and met with several times with us, with the board, and he provided all the documentation that we requested. He clarified several matters with us, and we appreciate that. And even last week, he followed up with us and asked us any concerns, and we talked to him. I would like to let you know that I actually work for a local government and worked almost 24 years. This is my 25th year. I started as a traffic engineer, and now I am a traffic engineering manager. In the last 15 to 20 years, I have reviewed this kind of traffic impact analysis reports, more than 100, and made recommendations to the town council on several developments. Because I'm giving the testimony, I would like to explain my qualifications to you to be considered as an expert witness.
Again, be careful.
Yes, sir.
Don't evaluate or give an opinion on the traffic report.
Understand.
Thank you.
In this report, Mr. L. Evelyn, who is the traffic engineer for the applicant, provided several traffic volumes that's going through the Twin Lakes neighborhood. There was percentages distributed, and I fully agree with his numbers in it. What we feel is, based on the numbers in this document, they have shown 5% of the traffic coming on south from Lake Grove Boulevard, and 5% of the traffic coming from the north side, going into the site, using the airport boulevard. I'm happy to show on this map, if you have the traffic and circulation map that Earl used. Thank you. So the site is here. He has showed 5% of the traffic generated by this site is using Lake Grove Boulevard coming here from McCrimmon Parkway here. And 5% of traffic is coming here. So at this intersection, which is Lake Grove Boulevard and Airport Boulevard, which is the main intersection with a four-way stop at this time, so have 10% traffic coming using Airport Boulevard going into this site. And we fully understood it, and we have no concern about, we are not disagreeing with the numbers. we feel that 10% of the traffic increase on Lake Grove Boulevard will create more traffic problems to the existing problems. We
I'm
have
sorry,
speeding.
that's an opinion.
We have
I can't allow you to say that. That's an opinion.
understood, and we have received several years back the police department traffic studies information.
I'm sorry.
Okay,
We're not gonna.
okay,
So just state facts.
okay.
Not
Those are the
opinion.
facts, the 10%, we feel that, if you feel that's the opinion, and we feel that, that increases the traffic problems, on speeding and cut-through traffic, and
That's an
we-
opinion.
Understood.
Can,
I'm sorry to keep
I
interrupting
cannot
you.
prove what will be coming in
You can,
future,
you
but
can
I understood.
talk to me about what you've seen and talk to me about facts. You cannot
Okay.
talk about opinions or what you think might happen.
can I
Thank
ask Mr. Silverstein something, because this is what I'm trying to clarify, and I think it'll help him. Does he, when he get his qualifications of having worked for 25 years for a town and reviewed things, Mr. Silverstein, was that to me was indicating that he was proffering himself as an expert, and that's what I was trying to get clarified about who we can accept as an effort, because he, that's what I'm trying to get.
The problem, Mr. George, is that he does not have a traffic study prepared with the same detail that Mr. Llewellyn did. When he says "we feel," then you've pretty much got to ignore everything after that. That's the problem. You can't talk about what you feel.
clarifies.
You've got to be able to show the evidence
Okay.
that demonstrates a conclusion,
So
not a feeling.
He might be an expert, but he's not presenting expert testimony.
That's right.
He's presenting feeling.
That's right.
That's what I'm clarifying. Okay.
The evidence is in this report that prepared by L. Llewellyn that 10% of the traffic is going through Lake Grove Boulevard and Airport Boulevard intersection. And based on the town of Cary studies in the past, we have received information that speeding and cut-through traffic is a problem on Lake Grove Boulevard. And based on my experience in my area of working, living for working, 10% of the traffic out of the traffic volumes that was included in this is a significant enough
That's your
to
opinion.
bring. Understood, but it is my expert.
We have to ignore that.
We have to
Understood.
ignore
We
it.
have to ignore everything you
Understood.
say that's an opinion.
Understood.
Just facts.
You don't understand.
Just facts.
Understood.
Please.
Please consider that as opinion, and we are requesting that council consider implementing traffic calming measures on Lake Grove Boulevard as part of approval of this development. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry to be so difficult, but that's the rules we have to abide by.
Understood, ma'am.
Cross-examination,
I
please.
just have two questions. It's correct that you have not prepared a traffic study to present here tonight, correct?
We have not prepared the traffic study. We have given the traffic study prepared by the applicant.
Okay, thank you. And it's, if I understand your concerns, you're concerned about existing traffic that's coming through Lake Grove Boulevard today, correct?
Correct. Plus the traffic that is projected by your applicant.
And most of your concerns to date have been the existing cut-through traffic on Lake Grove Boulevard?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, may I suggest that we have traffic and facilities staff here tonight, that they work with the gentleman with his issues?
Okay, very good. They can get contact information, we should have that. Anyone else to speak in support of this application? Okay. Any further cross-examination? I don't think so. We'll now open the hearing to those who are opposed to the request. As a reminder to those testifying, please limit your testimony to the facts that you know. The applicant's representative has a right to object to your testimony if you're not doing that, and we will interrupt you when we think you're not doing that. They may object to you in the middle of a sentence, and they have the right to do that. And our contractual attorney also, sitting beside me, can help determine what evidence we may consider. So at this time, please, if you're opposed to the request and you would like to speak, and you've been sworn in, I would invite you forward. Okay, seeing no one, we'll now call on staff to provide professional observations about the request.
Thank you. And just a few reminders. Council action is required on this sketch plan due to the amount of square footage exceeding 100,000 square feet, which triggers quasi-judicial review, and the proposal including a drive-through. There are no modification requests. Bill Dirks, Mr. Dirks, mentioned a staff granted modification that was permitted by ordinance to be granted by staff and was. So no modifications needing council action. Some of the conceptual drawings that they showed in their presentation showed elevations of the building. Those, of course, are not binding. I think you understand all this. I'd still like just for the audience and for the members of the public, those will be reviewed at the site plan stage in detail, and of course, those have to comply with the architectural requirements of the community appearance manual, but whatever they showed is not binding from the elevation standpoint. Of course, the plan in front of you is. Similarly, when they talked about individual tenants coming into individual spaces, that's not binding. The large retail building is just that. It's a large retail building, and there's any number of retail uses that could go in there. They are not bound to any particular tenant, nor would they be for the southern buildings, which they did not reference for the tenants. In the staff report, we mentioned one suggested condition of approval. It was concerning the architectural features located at the community gathering area and at the 3 entrances. We recommend the condition to remove the phrase masonry columns. Not that we have an issue with masonry columns, but the way the condition, I think, was inadvertently worded, allowed that to be the only architectural element and instead of a complementary one. So if you adopt the condition, it would allow masonry columns as a complementary element, but not the only element at those locations, which we feel would be an inappropriate level of features. And with that, I will feel free to be available for questioning the council has.
Thank you, Mr. Loveland. Do you need to cross-examine the staff here?
I'd love to, but I don't need to.
Okay, very good. Do any of the parties believe that evidence has been presented this evening that requires or warrants a continuance of this hearing? Seeing no one, will continue and begin the deliberative phase of the hearing and open it up to council members for questions or comments. I just want to follow up on what you were talking about, Mr. Loveland. You are hitting on what I wrote down here. We saw a lot of nice pictures. What are they required to do out of any of those nice pictures? We saw heights of building. We saw aesthetics on the building. We saw a community gathering space, what it looked like. Is any of that required?
The horizontal layout that you see on this plan in front of you is going to be required. That's basically the limit of what is required. There's some written conditions on the plan as far as what the architectural feature would be, as we just discussed with a condition to modify that. That's also binding because it's written on the site plan. There's some locations of retaining walls and stuff. It's hard to see on this detail, but on the plan it's in there. There's no elevations as far as it starts at this elevation above sea level and ends at this, but the presence of retaining wall, they're bound to that. But what a building elevation looks like vertically facade, no, that's not binding. So pretty much the horizontal layout that you see in front of you is what is binding.
And very good. We're not trying to be mean, but we've got over 60 years of experience just in the 5 of us that are up here, and we've been burned before. So whenever we see pictures, we immediately question, is that required? And I usually write that question down. So
now they're showing a community gathering space there in the southeast corner. As Mr. Dirks pointed out, there's actually multiple community gathering spaces shown on the plan. Those are binding. The exact shape of those might wiggle a little bit. Again, this is a sketch plan, so things can wiggle a little bit as far as, but they're going to be in that general location. They're going to be that general size.
But they would have to comply with town design standards and guidelines and stuff.
Correct.
So
That's right.
while they might not be held to what they showed us in their renderings, it is still going to be Cary standards.
Yep.
So
you're exactly right. Very good, Mr. France. Other comments, questions?
the only comments I would have, it's very similar to what the original PDD approved in '04 showed. However, I did like what the original PDD in '04 showed, where the big box building was actually semi-hidden by the 2 smaller retail buildings between it and Airport Boulevard. I've never been a fan of putting buildings up towards the street where the back of the building faces the street. It's, seeing the loading docks and the service bays and stuff like that from the street just.
It's ugly.
It is ugly, yes, I'm sorry. I do wonder, which it's not affecting my vote on this, I guess is maybe more for comment discussion or council discussion maybe at a later time, but it's a lot easier to screen a parking lot with landscaping than it is a two-story tall building. And, you know, when I look at, you know, say for the Harris Teeter example down the street from near my house, we're still waiting for those trees and that landscaping to fill in to hide the back of the building. But as far as orientation and the way it sits and where the parking lot was located, it's very much in line with what the original PDD called for. So I do like a lot of the things that they've committed to, the gathering spaces. Obviously, this shows, you know, the commitment to the BMPs and stormwater management, which the original PDD didn't. You know, part of that obviously is because we have increased our standards to address stormwater runoff, and now it's a requirement. But overall, it's less intense, at least for square footage, than what could have originally been built without ever coming to us. And I really appreciate the traffic improvements, especially the traffic light at Airport and Davis. I do think that is huge for the area and will go a long way towards addressing some of the traffic concerns that the nearby communities are facing. So those are my only comments.
So I wanted to just follow up on what you said with Mr. Loveland. Day one, CO, tell me about the back of that building and what you could see. I heard what we have, a berm, a 4-foot fence, or maybe it's more than 4-foot fence.
It was, there was a berm, a type A landscape yard,
Right.
and a opaque fence. The PDD, as you noted, showed conceptually buildings there to screen it, which I think would be ideal, but the site got constrained as the applicant outlined. So, you know, the berm, the opaque fence, type A standard exceeds the PDD requirement, I think probably because it envisioned it being screened by a building, but in lieu of a building which would have screened it more fully, I think this is a good compromise, in my opinion.
So what would we see? And I know you can't say exactly. What would you estimate we'll see? Half of the building height? A third of the building height?
I'm reluctant to take a guess
Okay.
on that.
Can you
Just
put up
curious.
the slide that shows the original plan for the area that's new? I think you had one that was side by side.
Yeah, the side by side.
The conceptual master plan?
Yeah,
The original PDD in '04.
yeah, thank you.
We have the two.
Give me a second, I can.
I have to remember the numbers on the slides.
Where's the number?
And the applicant, if I can find it, actually has a good slide of them side by side. If you
thought you
prefer to
showed
see
one.
that.
That's
Yeah,
it.
there you go.
Mr. Smith?
No, I just, you know, we have to stay to all the things that we have to consider, but I just think this is so woefully underwhelming, except I do appreciate with the traffic analysis, I appreciate the lights, I think all of that helps. But the question then is, you know, what are we giving up that was part of that big picture for that area? And those are just my thoughts.
Mr. George or Mr. Urha, either one.
You made, the traffic lights, wonderful thing, especially Airport Boulevard, I agree with you. Will they be, I know the state has to warrant them and everything, will they be installed before the development happens? I mean, I just
I'm gonna yield.
didn't see a
Yeah,
disaster
through the
happening if we
time.
have left turns on Davis Drive during rush hour out of.
I'll happy to attempt to address, but I think your staff's going to require it prior to CO for any substantial portion. Not fully understanding, one small building may come online that may not necessitate it, but I would imagine as soon as the lion's share of the project is CO'd, that will have to be in place.
Okay.
Thank you.
Receiving confirmation that that's accurate statement.
So we have head nods, yes. Okay.
Anything
you.
else, Mr. Urha?
No, I mean, otherwise, I'm fine with this. It complies with the PDD, complies with the LDO. I like the fact that there will be some underground parking. I guess that's one of the things that we're approving when we approve this.
Correct.
The access points are great. I think the traffic study was well done. If one of those gathering spaces turns out to be that overlook as presented, that would be a great thing, very creative and distinctive. I have no problem with the drive-through. I guess that's another reason why we're seeing this tonight. I never have problems with drive-throughs, it seems. I don't know why we have to go through that all the time. It was mentioned that there's less traffic than the original PDD had anticipated, and that there are setbacks and buffers that exceed what was in the original PDD. I mean, I think there's all good things.
Okay, Mr. George.
I've heard what you said about, Mr. Levin, about the topography was not included, it was the horizontal layout. And it would have been, I know we're not specking it, but I mean, like Mr. Urhoff said, that overlook, for it to be an overlook, it has to be higher. But we don't know what the topography is and nothing's marked, so that's a little bit difficult for us to comprehend. I question the fence, the necessity of a fence, the need of a fence. I drive by fences every day that looked great when they were new. I'm just not liking them, and when they stick one new board in them, they look worse than they did when they had a hole in them, almost. I don't know if we can get away without a fence.
On the fence of the applicant, that was a suggestion by staff to increase the opacity of that screen to try and screen that.
I almost feel like we could, well,
A type A yard is going to be accompanied with a fair amount of evergreen vegetation that's going to soften the view of that fence. But at a low level, I think the fence is more or less 100% opaque. Was the hope that that's going to help filter, especially at a lower line of sight.
See, I almost wonder if there's a way to condition, like we've got people coming to us now wanting to rezone and get rid of fences that are ugly and the vegetation's grown up, and I wish they could, but they can't because it was a condition. It was a condition. So I almost wish there was a way to have a condition that the fence is there until there's opaque tree buffer, a fence can be removed, but then they'd have to come back to us to remove the fence, and it's more costly to remove the fence than it is just to fix the fence. And that's a thought, your guys' thoughts.
I don't argue with you on your assessment of fences, but requiring on the front end and then requiring them to come back and take it out, that is an unfair burden cost to put on the applicant, plus probably a policing nightmare for staff.
In a type A, we've actually changed the language to read, correct me if I'm wrong, that to achieve full opaqueness, because they don't necessarily ever become fully opaque, it's vegetation. So you'd have to be careful with the wording of that. If you say remove the fence when it's fully opaque, we don't even require that as a standard for a type A to be fully opaque.
The current, what they're committing to as a condition for the fence is a typical wood fence, 6 feet tall, something.
Opaque fence, I don't believe it gets into the type of material. We just want it to be an opaque fence. Now, if you feel concerns about the material, you can require a condition for that material.
My request is that you drive through town, look at our fences, look at the names of who put them up, and don't use them. That's my only personal request. I'm sorry, but, you know, I think, Ken, you bring up a good point. I don't think it's going to be something we solve tonight. But you know where we live, you know Cary Parkway, you know where those apartments are. And, I mean, it's just
ugly.
Just ugly.
And I'm not even, maybe the condition is that they're not required to take it down, but they're not required to leave it after a certain point, is that when the opacities reach the town standards, if they, instead of repairing it, they want to tear the thing down.
If it's required, it's required.
Yeah. It's kind of like I don't think you can make that part of this, is the point. I kind of agree with you.
At the same time, I mean, we are approving a sketch plan, you know. If we felt that a lot of holly bushes would provide a much more visually appealing streetscape than a wooden fence that after 3 years is gonna start warping and boards popping loose and junk like that, then I don't know that I'm opposed to going green over the fence, but, I don't know that I necessarily want to get in here and solve this. I'm kind of hoping some landscape expert person goes to the microphone and solves this for us, but,
Here he
We
comes.
have an expert. He's a horticulturist.
Good evening, Rob Wilson, Planning Manager. To speak to your questions about a Type A buffer. Typical Type A buffer has 14 mid-story evergreen trees every 100 feet. At installation, those will be approximately 7 to 9 feet tall and anywhere from 3 to 5 feet in width, depending on the landscape material that's available and what's selected. You will be able to see in between and through them at installation. The typical material will put on anywhere from 1 to 3 feet a year. So probably in the 3 to 5 year time frame, it's likely that you will gain a heavy level of screening at the vehicular level of height from the street. There's also the presence of the berm, which is in addition to the height of the material that I've discussed.
okay.
The fence, I believe, was originally discussed and included to help provide a stronger level of screening for those first 5 or 6 feet.
And I think we all really appreciate that, because we don't want to see the trucks and the loading docks and stuff like that. So,
But the landscape material will be of a sufficient density that probably in the 3 to 5 year time frame will grow together at the height of the fence. And
so even if the fence started looking bad, you wouldn't see it?
correct.
Okay.
Oh, and if you wanted to go without the fence after 3, 4, 5 years, you probably wouldn't notice. But we think that it's something that would make a difference in the early years, and that's why we suggested it.
Okay, fair enough. And then regarding the topography of the gathering area, I don't know how high it is either, but it's not underwater. So
That's a good thing.
I'm sure it's kind of higher than the lake.
It's a good thing.
Underlook.
Yeah.
Other comments?
So going back to that, I'm just, if we're not going to see the fence in 3 to 5 years, this is what I'm getting into, is that what we do tonight does impact what this is going to look like in 5 years, 10 years, whatever, what we're doing tonight. We're making that decision. And all I'm saying is that would it be a problem to proffer a condition to consider, how would people feel about a condition that says that after 5 years, after 6 years, after some years, that the fence is not required any longer, because then they don't have to come back to us, and if the fence looks bad, they can just tear the thing down and have a Type A buffer, and then we fix it tonight instead of complaining about it in 5 years. I think that's a logical
That would be
thing.
more enforceable than saying remove it at a certain level of opacity. If you just say that they're allowed to remove it after a certain time period, then we just have to make sure they don't remove it before that time period. So
With staff permission.
if that,
With
well,
staff.
to remove a fence, depends how you word the condition.
If you put a time limit on it, it's a time limit, whether the buffer is opaque or not. If you require a certain level of opacity, it's a nightmare for staff
Yeah, how
to
they gonna
police.
measure that?
Yeah, I'm not comfortable trying to create and design something.
I know, we're,
right here. I think you bring up good points, but, there's this guy called Murphy, and sure enough,
Some holly bushes will be.
yeah, they died, and then their fence is gone, and it's like, I don't want to get into that.
yeah.
I mean, I think we're bringing up good points, those are like great things.
Don't argue the
For a
point.
retreat, and all that.
Very true.
And,
Okay.
I appreciate them. I just want the applicant to know, there's some really ugly fences out there,
All right, then, that was my fence question.
Okay.
Okay.
Didn't mean to be offensive. So it did mean to be funny. If you look at, so the MU5 that's not being addressed here tonight is not being addressed, even though it doesn't look like much is going to be there, and was the reason for it not being developed is so there won't have to be road improvements there? What's the purpose of not doing 5? Do we
Would
have?
you like the applicant?
I would like the applicant to answer that question. That would be.
We explored adding that parcel to the project and were unsuccessful in negotiations with that parcel owner. It's not under our ownership. and they weren't willing to sell.
Well, they let them own the corner then, okay, that's
Yeah.
fine. That answers the question. And then back to the traffic study, Mr. Dirks, I believe, was he the traffic expert?
Mr. Lowe.
So, and this may help with the people the neighbors. I just want, if somebody brings up something, all they can do is they can just point out what's in the traffic study, like highlight something that was said. So I just want to be, if it was accurate, there were two parts, and then in the cross-examination, is that one is we're anticipating, Mr. Dirk, we're anticipating there's a reduction of cut-through traffic based on your professional opinion in this, that the cut-through traffic is going to be.
This is Mr. Llewellyn.
I'm sorry, who was the?
Just for the record.
Who was
right?
the?
I'm the traffic.
I'm sorry, I was making notes here and I can't read my own writing. I'm sorry, Mr.
I've been called worse.
Okay.
So have we.
All right, Mr. I'm sorry.
Let me attempt to answer your question, and if I don't, you can restate it. I think what I was trying to iterate is that upon observation and talking with the neighborhood community, we found that a lot of area residents are using either Chesway, Lake Grove, or elsewhere on Airport, and instead of coming to Airport and making a left where there is no signal, they're trying to find a safer, quicker way to make a left, and so they're using Lake Grove.
But you didn't quantify that percentages of people that are doing that instead of turning left. You didn't do traffic counts to determine that people cut through and come out the other way or something. There's not a.
We did a rule of thumb in looking at if we take these areas and do trip generation for the number of homes that are there. That's sort of the basis that we did, a little more than a wet finger in the wind. But we did assess there's a substantial number of cut-through traffic that would not be associated with accessing the homes in this area, per se.
So there's some offsetting, you're saying there's some offsetting things for the neighborhood that because there's a stoplight, there may be less people cutting through. Those same people are buying groceries somewhere. So is there really an increased, are they going to shop more often because it's close by? I'm trying to figure this out, why there's an increase because you're putting a grocery store there, or potentially a grocery store there, a retail store. Is there going to be an increase in traffic because they're still going to buy groceries somewhere and they still have to exit their neighborhood to go buy groceries?
That's exactly right. There's a case to be made that there would not be an increase. I didn't want to do a traffic study showing that there would not be an increase. I wanted to be conservative in that regard.
Okay, and if there's pedestrian connectivity, then potentially there's even less traffic for reduction. So I think the neighbors, when they point out 5%, that was a very small number, it seemed to me, and it's not insignificant, but in your opinion, it was insignificant in the total number of trips in the area, right? That's what your statement of insignificant.
But from my perspective, that number of additional trips did not cause any capacity problems.
Capacity problems, okay, that was what insignificant.
Right.
All right, so I just wanted to offset that because it seems to me I needed to clarify that because it just, how does, it's, people coming from somewhere else to shop at this store are not going to cut through that neighborhood anymore because there's a traffic light. Is that your opinion? Okay, that's what I wanted to, thank you.
Other questions or comments?
Just one question for staff. Any idea on the time or potential timeline for the Greenway completion adjacent to the proposed site?
That's on town property.
I understand that. Any timeline for, okay.
I don't
Parks
know,
master
maybe
plan.
someone more qualified.
Good evening, Council. This is Paul Kuhn, Facility Design Manager. And currently, this is in the 10-year plan, but it's not funded at this time.
Okay.
Thank you. Other comments or questions? Are we done deliberating? I think we are, so I'll close the public comment portion of the hearing and ask council for motions.
Say what?
Motions?
Yes, I'll make a motion to approve the development plan for For the reasons discussed, I move that we approve the proposed development plan with conditions as stated below, as it meets all of the approval criteria set forth in section 3.9.2I of the LDO. The approval is conditioned upon the following: that the applicant shall revise the four notes on sheet C3 of the sketch plan regarding the public gathering space, Road A at Davis Drive, Road C at Davis Drive, and Road B at Airport Road, to remove the option for masonry columns from the list of permitted vertical architectural elements. 2, the applicant must satisfactorily address all remaining Development Review Committee comments on the master plan set submitted for signature.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. If there are no objections, if everything's in order, Ms. Silverstein, I'll close the public hearing.
Everything is in order.
All right, we'll close this public hearing, and that's all that's on our agenda this evening. And I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
There's a motion
Second.
and a second. Discussion.
There we go.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
This has been a production of Cary TV. Visit the Town of Cary's website at townofcary.org.